Good evening. Good evening. Listen, it is a amazing Monday, this first Monday in February, and we are on with Manifest Mondays. Manifest Mondays is an opportunity for men to talk about men issues, um, while also being able to be safe and transparent. And probably this is more so just a chance for me, space for me to kind of process some of the things that are going on. The purpose is to help us, of course, reach our best version of ourselves based on our sponsorship by the Pro Self Institute. Um, Pro Self Institute is a nonprofit with the purpose of helping people reach the best version of themselves. So, to kick this off today, I just simply want to invite you as you're tuning in to tell me where you're watching from and to make sure you're sharing this video. This is not going to be a long broadcast. This is simply just a conversation. And I kind of just want to chop it up about this topic, right? So, the topic for tonight, as you're writing where you're from, please take a minute, write where you're from. Take a minute, write where you're from. Take a minute, write where you're from before we chop up our conversation for tonight. Right where you're from. All right, so we're coming on tonight, and our topic for tonight is simply this: manhood, medicine, and mortality. Manhood, medicine, and mortality. Manhood, medicine, and mortality. Now, crazy thing is, I don't know if you're gonna be able to rock with this conversation because this may not apply to you. Um, may not apply to you at all. But let me just give you a snapshot, right? So, for me, one of the things that I've hated all my life is taking medicine, right? I am not one that likes medicine at all, especially not pills, right? So when I was little, my mother would dissolve the Dristan or the Tylenol in water, mix it in juice. She'd crunch it up, put it in juice for me to take it. Um, so I am not one. In fact, I hate getting sick because, you know, sickness reduces me to a childhood state. I am a poor patient. Horrible patient. Um, what I also know is I've always tried real hard, for the most part, to stay away from doctors and the need for prescription medicine. Um, Part of that, you know, is attributed to my hatred of pills, but the other piece of that is I've always seen myself as sort of invincible, right? Most people, right? I've been blessed and fortunate to never have to stay overnight in the hospital, never have to, except for when I was 5, having my tonsils and adenoids removed, which I don't remember. Never really been sick. Had a couple colds, had a flu once or twice, chicken pox in the first grade, but I've never really been sick. I've been blessed, and I give it all to God. I don't have a sweet tooth, so I've never, right? I don't wrestle with a lot of chronic illnesses. But lately, since 2020, probably, I've skirted on this idea of hypertension, right? My numbers would fluctuate. Now, for a long time, I attributed it to white coat syndrome. So typically, I would go to the doctor. They would take my blood pressure twice on my right arm, once on my left, and my numbers would be like um, 145 over 91, then 145 over 99. And they would say sit for a while. And then on the fourth taking, oftentimes with the manual cuff, they would then allow for my numbers would de-escalate or would lower to about 184, 124 to 125 over 83 or 81. Something happened in 2021 where they didn't do that. So my numbers started creeping up. 152 over 103, 157 over 104. And what I would say to the physician or to the doctor, because this would always happen at my yearly military physical, I would say, look, I'm going to see my primary care physician and we'll work it out. Now, what that really meant to me was, okay, I'm going to, slow down on my salt intake. I'm going to work out a little bit more. I'm going to drink more water. And I'm not going to worry about it until the next year. Well, this year, 2022, well, last year, 2022, the numbers didn't fluctuate as much. So they were still 158 over 101, 159 over 98. But again, I was able to say the same thing. So this December 2022, I finally got into a new primary care physician. And this guy, is an amazing young African American who wouldn't allow me to give the excuse. So he said, listen, we're really looking at a blood pressure medicine, which frightened me to death, scared the hell out of me, to be honest. So I was like, okay, listen, I can get it down, right? He said, get a cuff, check it every day, write it down, see me in 6 weeks. Now, I understood that 6 weeks was a week after my annual military physical. So I jumped right on it. But again, me thinking that I could overcome it, it wasn't as bad as I thought, led me not to get the cuff, not to do the testing. I did work out. I did drink water. But it wasn't probably as aggressive as I should because I thought it was so close, it would just come off, right? So first Friday in 2023, I'm in Colombia going through my IMRX, right? And my numbers are like 165 over 115, 160 over 110. Third time, it's 155 over 112. And I get flagged, or not flagged, but I get a my provider puts me on an alert, which suggests I then have to go to a primary care physician to partner with them to develop a plan so that I don't get flagged. Flagging would, of course, eliminate me um, from deployments, eliminate me from promotion, eliminate me from, right, a lot of things. But here's the crazy thing: I go to the doctor. He refuses to accept any excuses, and he puts me on a low dose blood pressure medicine. A low dose blood pressure medicine, right? Now, I don't like pills. I don't like pills, right? But now it hits hard, right? I'm 45 years old. 45 years old, and I am put on this pill. Um, Psychologically, it messes with me. Um, and probably mentally just because of the stigma that goes along with blood pressure medicine, right? But it kicks off this downward spiral of almost a depression. Um, so what it does is it causes me to start thinking about the fact, first of all, that I'm not invincible. I'm not immortal, right? Um, then it starts causing me to really be reflectively depressed about what I've accomplished and how close I am to the end. Right? This idea that living forever and waiting and procrastinating is not an effective response because this pill shows me that there's no such thing as forever. Right? I'm just processing this with y'all, right? Because like it really messed with me. Like I probably have had the worst 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month that I've had in a long time because this pill, right? Then, you begin taking it, your body has to get adjusted to it. Started feeling dizzy, right? Stomach aches. Why? Because you have to make sure you take it the right way. Not really knowing what to expect and how it was going to affect me, right? It's not a high dose. It's a split pill. So part of it is a fluid pill, and the other part of the pill relaxes the arteries, is what I was told. Right? You read and you find out, start looking at side effects. And there really are none, but psychologically there are. You start thinking things. And then I start weighing in, right? I have children, right? My youngest is 14. She's a freshman in high school. I have 3 grandchildren, right? That are just beginning their lives. And I start thinking, man, wow, like I want to see them grow up, right? Yeah, I was stubborn because I thought I had it. I thought I handled it, right? Beautiful thing is, start asking questions. Like even in the doctor's office, I called my parents to find out, had they ever experienced anything like this? And they talked about the fact that they'd experienced things and they took steps and it was reduced and they were able to split pills and all kind of stuff based on choices, right? So let's be real. There's no such thing as final unless you fail to take the steps to change, right? It shouldn't take the same wake up call for you to be able to make the change. It shouldn't take the same type wake up call, right? Because can I tell you, like real talk, and I'm very transparent and I'm grown. So um, if you're not careful, the psychology of it will have you so messed up in your mind that you write yourself off as done when you're not done. Um, because here's also the other piece. If you start doing the research, and I thank God for my brother Fats, who told me, listen, go do the research, go to the health food store, go start looking at things like circulation, um, supplements, think about things that help circulation, change your diet, right? And this ain't even about salt. This is just about other foods that impede circulation. Because hand in hand with circulation is cholesterol and plaque in your arteries that are also causing your heart to work harder to pump blood through, right? So, really taking account of some of the stuff that we weren't exposed to, right? Some of the stuff we demonize as nasty naturally has a wealth of nutrients that help us stay healthy, right? I'm talking about stuff like beets. Everybody said, "Ooh, beets are nasty." No, beets are essential parts of circulation, natural foods, right? In fact, I should have invited my bro Reggie Williams on so we can talk about some of this homeopathic, these natural um, ingredients that help with your health. But but what you need to understand as you're taking and end up having to take medicine is that it's not necessarily a death sentence. Really, what it ends up being is a wake up call. It begins to be a call to action for some real changes. And it's difficult because you end up having to fight with yourself for the sake of yourself. You end up having to challenge yourself because what a lot of people do when they get in a place where they have life altering news, they end up saying, well, you only live once, let's rock with it. And they still take unnecessary risks that don't have to happen. It doesn't have to get worse, right? You don't have to stay on it forever. What you have to do is take the steps to correct it so that there's evidence that even beyond the assistance of the pill, you have been cognizant and capable of lowering your pressure to a point that won't necessarily require the regulation of pressure with the assistance of a pill. But it requires you to take the steps. It requires you to not try to live with it, right? It doesn't have to be the proverbial thorn that's just a part of you. Now, and the reality is, some of us are predisposed to it easier or more easily because of our genetic makeup because of our genetics, our parents and grandparents. That's why they do that medical history, right? But it doesn't mean terminal. What it means is you're predisposed to it, which will require you to be more diligent and deliberate in your attempts to overcome it. You don't have to repeat the cycle. What you must do is you must take the steps to overcome it so that you don't become a victim of it. Right? So so when I think about this, and I thought about this, man, this manhood, right? This medicine, sometimes they clash, or at least your mind leads you to believe they clash. And for those of us whose manhood is important, it can mess with you. It has been a long time, very transparently, since the last time I felt depressed to the point of death, or depressed to the point of um, like being in a very sunken place. I am typically lighthearted, but there was a moment after the initial taking of the pill, first week or so, week and 7 days maybe, that part of me felt that it could never be used. And in that moment, I thought about wrestling with that issue for the rest of my life, and it depressed me. Again, psychologically, which led me to ask questions, which led me to seek additional help. But here's the thing, it leads me to tell you, don't allow it. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it go to your head. Now, that's what the song says, right? In other words, there is always assistance if you free yourself from internalizing it to the place it destroys you, and you take the time to discuss it with someone. Because again, the enemy wants you to believe you're alone in what you're going through. You're the only one. It's never happened to anybody else. It's adding to your self-value, or it's depreciating your self-worth. You deserve it. There's nothing left for you. But that is a lie from the pits of hell. The reality is many people go through it. As Nico said earlier, it's hypertension is like one of the number one killers, the silent killer of African Americans. So others have gone through it. Others are suffering with it now. Others are fighting and surviving it. But if you stay silent, you will never know. And the enemy will have you thinking you're all alone, thinking your life is over as you know it, thinking there's no way to improve the situation you're in. And that is a lie. You can always overcome it if you are willing to admit that you need help. Ah, right? Ha, I can go Bible, right? You ready? Blind Bartimaeus is on the side of the road. The text says when he hears Jesus coming, he cries out, Son of David, have mercy. The disciples dismiss him and ask him to quiet down. Bartimaeus begins to scream even louder. Because Bartimaeus says, I'm not going to allow those who don't have my issue silence me from seeking help for my issue. And if we're not careful, we will allow the optics of our friends who seem to be living life normally shame us into thinking something is severely wrong with us, and there's no need for reaching out, because why are we bringing that negative attention to ourselves? But I'm here to tell you, if something's wrong and ain't nobody else seem to be concerned and it's wrong with you, then you still need to be concerned and you need to holler until you get help. That hollering is researching, that hollering is seeking your primary care physician, that hollering is going and seeking the opinions and second opinions and asking those who you know have it and those who you don't know, just inquiring, because again, you're not the only person. I had to come to grips with the fact that my prescription was not the only prescription filled on that day for the same thing. My doctor did not just solely write Napoleon Abram Bradford a prescription for blood pressure medicine. No, 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 no. In fact, they had my prescription filled within 15 minutes of it being called in because they already had the ingredients in stock. The reason they had the ingredients in stock is because they were already filling it for other people. So you're not alone. You're not going through whatever your illness or ailment is. Brothers, we just simply need to know that we're not by ourselves. We need to know that we are not in this alone. We need to know that we don't have to suffer forever from this sickness. But what we must do is we must acknowledge that we need help. We must acknowledge that we are going through. We must acknowledge that this is, in fact, an issue that we're facing. And then we must work as hard as we can to fix it. We must take the steps to improve the condition of our life so that our legacy is not sickness, but our legacy is life. So I'm just simply encouraging you, and I'm done, right? Take care of yourself. Not necessarily to be swole, but to live without that being the issue, right? Take care of yourself. Diet, right? What you intake, right? Make sure you're getting the right amount of sleep and rest. Make sure you're getting the right amount of water. You're staying hydrated. Make sure you're working and exercising your heart and your muscles, some sort of cardiovascular activity, right? Moderating your portion size, right? For all of us who were beat back in the day because we wouldn't clean our plate, the reality is many of our conditions are due to the fact we overate when we were young because the cost of the food always had us thinking that we had to eat everything on our plate, when now we should know that we don't. We can save some. We can reduce our portion size and give space between the time that we eat so that we shrink the size of the expanded stomach we gained by all that overeating. Take the steps, preserve your life, leave a legacy, not of sickness, not of loss, but leave a legacy of wellness, right? Yes. So again, that's all I want to talk about tonight. Manhood, medicine, and mortality. So what God and I have come to an agreement is that I'm going to work as hard as I can on my end to properly steward this life-giving second chance. Because here's the reality. Those numbers could have taken me out. Those were pre-stroke numbers, right? They could have taken me out. But God spared me. And because God spared me, I'm going to steward it properly. And I encourage you to steward it, your second chance, your life. I encourage you to steward it properly and honor God by the faithfulness you have to your health. Your life is a gift, right? God gifted you with life, and the least you can do in honoring the God that gifted you is by stewarding the gift. So, y'all have an amazing day. Listen, I love you. Thank you for rocking with me. Please share this with somebody because there's someone else going through this wrestle, right? Or trying to overcome the depression attached with the life altering change of being assigned or prescribed a daily medicine that is not optional, right? It's not like a daily vitamin or a vitamin D or B12 supplement. This is a required pill to help regulate a condition. But the beautiful thing is, I have some control over the condition. And I must be deliberate in taking the steps to improve the condition. All right. Listen, y'all have an amazing night. To God be the glory. Love y'all. Goodbye.